This week, you've all heard of the Kabbalah. Perhaps you've done some study in it. Maybe you're an expert. But one thing I can guarantee you, that in 680 episodes of this program, we've never talked about what we talk about this week. 3 other elements of Kabbalistic practicum and theory. Then, we're going to read a page from the New Age magazine, maybe even New Ageier than some of our previous articles. What is the mystery of breath? Prana, life energy, cosmic breath. Well, can you cure yourself with this? I don't know, but this particular article seems to lay out some interesting information, which comes from the president of the Pythagorean Society back in 1946. All this and more. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry. Here's your host, Brother Robert Johnson.
Welcome back to the show. This is episode number 681. This show is made possible because of you. The support through Patreon and PayPal has made all the difference, and we've been making this show since 2011. We can't do it without you, and if you're curious on how you can help support the WCY podcast, head on over to wcypodcast.com, click on Support the Show, and check out the various options available. I want to thank our current and past contributors, fellows, producers, and legacy partners. If you want to know who those are, you can click on the Supporters tab at the top of our page, and you'll see a list, and you just might recognize some of the names you see. It has been an insanely busy time, both Masonically and just in the world. I think we all can identify with that, and so I hope wherever you are in the world, you're finding some time for some peace, some clarity, and if you haven't found it yet, we're sending you positive vibes that you will find it as soon as possible. The first piece I have for you this week stood out to me because recently at the San Antonio Esoteric Summit, Brother T.J. Brumfield gave an excellent presentation on the Kabbalah. This article is called What is Kabbalah? By A. Bluestein, 32nd degree, Washington, D.C. What is Kabbalah? Is it a teaching that the average reader can understand, or is it an esoteric doctrine for only a select group of Kabbalistic students? Kabbalah can be either or both. The word Kabbal in Hebrew means receive, and its derivative Kabbalah signifies something received, a doctrine by tradition. The Kabbalah is divided into 2 parts, the symbolical and the real. The real Kabbalah, quote-unquote, consists of theoretical and practical mysteries. 1. The theoretical mysteries treat about the 10 spheres, the 4 worlds, and the essence and various names of God, and of angels, also of the celestial hierarchy and its influences and effects on the lower world, of the mysteries of creation and the mystical chariot described by the prophet Ezekiel, of the different orders and offices of angels and demons, also of a great many other subjects too deep for comprehension. 2. The practical Kabbalah is a branch of the theoretical and treats of the practical use of the mysterious names of God and of angels by uttering properly Shem Ham Mepharash, that is, the ineffable name of Jehovah or the name of certain angels. Symbolical Kabbalah teaches the secret and mystic use and mystic sense of the scriptures and the rules by which the observance of the law is not logically but Kabbalistically expounded through the rules of Gematria, Notricon, and Temura. The first named of these 3 rules, Gematria, gives a numerical value for each letter of the alphabet. For instance, A has a value of 1, B 2, C 3, D 4, E 5, F 6, G 7, H 8, I 9, and J 10. Then we have K 20, L 30, M 40, N 50, O 60, P 70, Q 80, R 90, and S 100, T is 200, U 300, V 400, W 500, X is 1000, Y is 10,000, and Z is 100,000. Little did I realize in my boyhood days during my Talmudic studies that by computing the value of the letters in the words Lord God of Israel, which total 613, that I was dabbling in Kabbalah. The number 613 is a significant one in Jewish life, for it represents the number of precepts which every Jew must observe. The total value of the letters in the words, Moses our rabbi, also amounts to 613. Suppose we take a problem in dispute and try to solve it by gematria. The problem is the relative values of democracy and dictatorship. We argue that democracy is superior because the numerical value of the letters in that word totals 10,206, whereas the numerical values of the letters forming the word dictatorship amount to only 754. The dictator then claims that numerical superiority alone is not proof of the advantages of democracy over dictatorship. We then decide the question by the rule of notricon. This consists of forming a decisive sentence made up of words whole whose initial letters form a given word. Take for instance these same words, democracy and dictatorship. Under the rule of notricon, the secret sense of the words would be as follows. Democracy teaches duty, enterprise, morality, opportunity, confidence, reality, appreciating, Christian, yearnings. Dictatorship stands for despotism, ignorance, corruption, terror, arrogance, trickery, oppression, rationalizing, sinfulness, hysteria, intrigue, persecution. Timura is a method of changing the letters of the alphabet after a regularly adapted system. There are numerous permuted alphabets, but 5 only are known to the average scholar. These are known as Atbash, Atbak, Album, Ayakbakar, and Tashrak. For the purposes of merely giving an example, however, we will analyze the first only, Atbash. Take the first 13 letters of the English alphabet, that is, A to M, then start backwards with the next 13 letters, from N to Z. Thus we have 13 parts of letters in the following order, A through M, and then Z through N, directly underneath, so A over the Z, B over Y, C over X, and so on. These pairs of letters, A and Z, B and Y, etc., become what is known as permuted alphabet. The technical name, Asbi, is taken from the first 2 pairs of the letters in the English alphabet. Atbash becomes the name when the first 2 pairs of the Hebrew alphabet are used. Hebrew scholars have often used permuted alphabets in poetic compositions as well as in liturgies for the Hebrew festivals. Now suppose we take an example, SV, DSL, ZEL, RWH, GSV, and a continuing of other letters which sound like gibberish through a recorded podcast. However, under this system of Tumura would read, "He who avoids the temptation avoids the sin." In a recent issue of the New Age, I read with much interest a scholarly article under the title Our Birthright is Priceless by Bert B. Stemmon's 32nd Degree, which dealt considerably with Kabbalah. There was one word in Brother Stemmon's article that seemed significant, and an explanation of it was sought by one of the 3 rules mentioned above. The word is gemet. It was tried by gematria, but as far as I could learn, there was no particular significance here, and by Tumura, it must be admitted that the result was meaningless to me. But when it was tried by the rule of notricon, the answer appeared to be God, eternal, merciful, endless, timeless. Of course, I do not maintain that this is the true meaning of the word gemet, but we might be left with this thought, that in whatever there is God. What a great piece explaining some additional parts of the Kabbalah that are almost never talked about. I wouldn't be surprised that after a time that perhaps this article makes its rounds or people listen to this episode, we start to find some of our esoteric brothers diving more deeply into this, and you'll start to see more and more presentations that perhaps mention some of these very esoteric, additional pieces, Kabbalism. As a student of cryptography myself, well, I shouldn't say student, self-taught, read a lot of books, love the idea, love the practice, love the history, I find that this Atbash is very similar to codes and codings that we use to put things in cryptic ciphers and things. Very cool, very awesome, and I really loved learning about this. The next piece I have for you this week is The Mystery of Breath. This is by John H. Manas, Ph.D., New York, President of the Pythagorean Society. What is breath? According to Webster, it is the air inhaled and exhaled in respiration. In the Greek language for breath, we have the noun, eismo, which is a compound word from eis, for into a no, or pneuma, which means life soul. Therefore, eisno means taking in life or soul energy. This is exactly what is happening with each breath that we take. Nature is permeated with a mysterious energy which is responsible for all plant and animal life. This living cosmic energy which is about us and which fills all organisms and all living forms in nature is called life force or prana. Cosmic energy functions according to the degree of development of each form of being in nature. This mysterious life-giving force which fills the universe is both positive and negative. The proper regulation and balance of these two opposites govern the birth, growth, decline, and death of all living forms and beings throughout nature. The positive force enters through the right nostril with each breath that we take and circulates through the cerebellum, the medulla oblongata, and the right side of the spine down to its end. The negative force enters the human body as we breathe through the left nostril, circulates through the left side of the spine. The gates of life and death. This mysterious dual function of life force through our breath is due to the existence of a very sensitive nerve side inside and at the root of the nose, where the two nostrils converge. The function of this nerve center with its counterpart on the astral plane is to separate and to select these two opposite forms of life force. In the interior of each nostril there is a passage or valve, the opening and the closing of which are regulated and controlled from this nerve center. When the breath flows through the right nostril, the passage of the left is closed and vice versa. When the right nostril is active with breath flow, positive energy is absorbed, whereas when the left nostril is flowing, negative energy is selected. The positive breath in man is the carrier of solar energy and produces heat in the body, while the negative breath is the carrier of lunar energy, resulting in coolness and calmness. The opposite manifestations occur in woman. When the flow of breath is even through both nostrils, then positive and negative energies in equal amounts are absorbed. This condition results in the balance of this mysterious life force in man. When this desired condition is established, man can use this fiery force at will and, by sending it up through the cerebrospinal fluid in the hollow central canal of the spine, he opens the 7 etheric centers of power, or chakras. These centers are closed, and their power is dormant in the ordinary man. This rare condition of balance, with all of its wonderful results, is realized by the adepts and some occultists who, through a long period of training, discipline, and proper living, have established this function of balance of this life force. By its use, they can demonstrate phenomena or physical and mental capabilities above those of the great majority of humanity. These powers were possessed and used by all ancient adepts, healers, and philosophers, and they are also possessed and used today by the very few who have attained this state of spiritual development. This life energy circulates in our body through the spinal column and through the 31 pairs of spinal nerves that emerge through the openings of the vertebrae. By this, the entire body becomes vitalized through breath energy. Under properly balanced conditions, the flow of breath changes every hour. It flows for 1 hour through the right nostril and for 1 hour through the left nostril. When a person is angry or in an aggressive mood, the breath flows through the right nostril only. By adjusting the flow of these two opposite forms of life force in the breath, desired condition of healthy serenity, emotional, and mental stability are established. Life control through cosmic breath. Pythagoras, the father of Greek philosophy and the great initiate of antiquity, taught that everything in being in nature is known by its number and it's controlled by the mastering of its key vibration. This number in the Pythagorean philosophy is the key at which all things and beings vibrate and breathe. Therefore, every being takes its place in nature, according to the number of its vibrations and to the relationship of its breath to the cosmic breath. This breath is a rhythmic motion of the cosmic life force or spirit of God in nature. To its countless wavelengths, every organism and every being responds. It is like the waves of the ocean which transmit their motion to the craft afloat. The smaller of the floating body, the more it is affected by the motion of the waves. The deeper and larger the sea, the bigger the waves. The same law applies to all living beings, thus the faster the breathing rate of a being, the shorter its life, and vice versa. This is the reason why each animal species has a different specific rate of breathing. Man at birth and up to 1 year of age takes about 140 breaths per minute. This rate slows down greatly between the ages of 21 and 65, and then goes up again in old age. The average person takes about 21,000 breaths in 24 hours, or about 15 breaths per minute, or 1 breath to every 4 heartbeats. It has been observed that every form of disease brings about a disturbance in the balance between the right and the left nostril flow, the mysterious life force in man's breath. By restoring the balance, or by establishing the proper flow of this energy, one may eliminate many abnormal conditions and ailments of this life and prolong its span. The secret of life and death in man is his breath. Wow. So you may be thinking, those were great articles, or those were weird articles. Where did they come from? Well, as of late, we've been reading articles selected from the New Age magazine, a publication of the Supreme Council of the 33rd degree of the ancient and accepted Scottish Rite of Freemasonry for the Southern Jurisdiction, United States of America. These particular readings came out of the October 1946 issue. The first piece very much aligns with tons of what's written about and within the Scottish Rite of Freemasonry. Now, the mystery of breath. We knew this would take somewhat of a turn into New Age thought and practices. This was, after all, published in 1946, shortly before, really, ideas of the New Age philosophy really began to take hold. Concepts within this particular article definitely tie back to New Age thoughts on breathing and chakras. One might recall elements of perhaps Manly P. Hall's Occult Anatomy of Man. I very much enjoyed the piece, and while I might not subscribe to wholesale to every idea within it, as Jerry L. Smith once told me, it's up to us to pull the wisdom out. Of note is that John H. Manas is a PhD from New York, New York, and was president of the Pythagorean Society. Does breathing correctly sufficiently cure ailments? I don't know. Maybe about as much as apple cider vinegar might. But what we know is that if it works for you, it works for you. To each their own. And I would also say, please don't stop any medical treatments and just try breathing only. That's our disclaimer. I don't think I've ever thought I had to say a medical disclaimer within this podcast. But anyway, just in case. Remember, everyone, Masonicon Kansas is coming up, and it's going to be a fantastic event. Lots of great speakers, an amazing festive board. Oh yeah, and did I mention it's free? No catches. It's free. You just come. However, if you're somebody who wants to contribute, they are taking donations which keep the event free for those who need to take advantage of that freeness, right? So you can certainly head on over to MasoniconKansas.com. We'll have a link in the show notes and check out the various options for your tickets, whether you're going to get a festive board ticket, which they're only charging $50 for the festive board, or you just want a free ticket and attend all the lectures all day. Even if it's virtual, it's still free. What? I know it's crazy and cool, and Alex Powers is out of his mind, but he certainly is making waves and offering this for free, because he knows the value of education, and he knows that Masons will come through and support where they can. With that, I want to thank you all so much for joining us this week. Thank you to our supporters once more, our contributors, fellows, producers, and legacy partners of the WCY podcast. If you're out there and you're thinking, hey, how can I help support this show? Head on over to our website right now, click on support the show, and check out the various options available to you. Remember, even $1, one-time gift of $1 can help this show out. All money raised, whether it's through sales of items in the shop or supporting the program, will go right back into this publication. With that, I want to thank you all so much for joining me this week, and until next week, stay on the level. For Whence Came You, I'm Robert Johnson. Take care.
You've been listening to Whence Came You, a Masonic podcast featuring research papers and discussions related to Freemasonry with your host, Brother Robert Johnson. Be sure to join us for our next edition.
WCY Media.
Well, you guys beat me as no.